The turning point was the 40-20 by young Harry, but the second half was an exceptional performance, up there with the first half against Saints, made even better in the Magaluf sun. Come on, Wigan.
Yeah, it turns out Harry Smith is about a week younger than Callum, and that's why he gets to call him Young Harry.
Okay.
David at Pen Hits Paper, our friend from the show last week, said, "What a difference a half-time makes. I was worried about Wigan's chances before the game, having witnessed the cup celebrations, but I should know better. There's a new determination about the Warriors this season, and despite being 12-0 down at half-time, well, 12-4 down in half-time, there was no panic. A much-changed Warriors side that lost Thornley in the action blitzed the Tigers in an emphatic second half. Farrell, Smith and Marshall outstanding."
Dr. Bob got in touch and said Cass looked thoughtful and determined in the first half, helped by a half-asleep Wigan team, but it turns out that kicking a ginger in the head can really get things woke. Second half was played by two different teams, annoyingly, and Operation Piss the League turned into a desperate need for an incontinence specialist nurse.
Good stuff. Esther said, "Game completely changed after Fanua yellow, but if I had a set of nuts and she said, if I had a set of nuts and Farrow elbowed me there, I might have reacted the same. So glad the commentators reminded us at least 100 times that Marshall scored the winning try in the cup final."
Yes, definitely. Mark W said Cass tried to shape their reputation as a team full of ex-Huddersfield players by dominating the first half against Wigan, not scoring enough points, missing a kickable penalty and bottling the lead to a Marshall try. Brilliant. Now I have PTSD flashbacks.
Matt Sweetman said, "Missed this game as I was playing cricket, but since caught up. Good coverage again by Channel 4, by the way. Looked like the slow start we expected, but really turned it on. French at fullback looked class. Field played well at 6, which is good because he'll be there for a while. This has the feel of a real landmark win for a team that obviously isn't content with the cup. Buzzing for Sean to get his OBE as well. Captain for my life."
Pop of the Vikings said Castleford the better of two teams in the first half, then the sin binning happened. This gave Wigan a big lift with a try coming soon after. The second half was all Wigan, with Cass not looking like scoring.
White Pie said, "Another Wigan game, another game of two halves. Just like last week, Wigan weren't at the races in the first half and seemed to be suffering from a cup hangover in the first 40, but remembered how to play rugby after half-time. Wigan played without Cust, Tommy, Smithies and Bateman, but blew Cass away up the middle in the second half, with Marshall landing tries 100 and 101 in just 100 games. It was 100 and 101 of his career in total, but it was 100 Super League games. So those career figures includes games at Swinton and games in the Challenge Cup. Anyway, further tries from Bibby, French, Miskey and the Pearl playing at right centre saw Wigan score 32 answered points and buck the trend of teams losing after winning the Challenge Cup. Cass couldn't live with Wigan's props in the second half and we made easy meters. Seems like Operation Piss the League has been put on hold in West Yorkshire for another year." And Coming Up Roses said, "Cass looked good in the first half. Old man Shady McShane tackling Smith off the ball for the knock-on and was interfering with Mago's play of the ball, again called us a knock-on. At last, the ale fumes coming off the Wigan players intoxicated the Cass lads and it was a walkover in the second half."
Yes. Sorry.
Between the third minute or whatever it was when Liam Byrne made that big break down the middle but then knocked on in the sort of kerfuffle on the floor, and then Wigan having the try disallowed off the forward pass just after this 40-20, I think that was. Wigan didn't do anything in the game and Castleford were absolutely dominant for like 25 minutes of the match, and then it all changed and Wigan were the only team on the field, it felt like.
Yeah. I just going back to Matt Speakman's review, I agree. I thought it was very good coverage by Channel 4. I don't know if you saw any of the build-up.
To be honest, no. I only watched the game when I got home from my weekend away. I didn't watch the build-up or the post-game.
Yeah, no, I thought that it was really good. They did a feature on Sean O'Loughlin, which I didn't watch much of, but then they did a feature on Joe Westerman, which I happened to be in the room to watch, and sort of followed him around, listened to his life story, and then also talked about like how the role of loose forward has changed, and you've got different styles of loose forwards. And I just thought, actually, for a new person watching, that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that I enjoyed that. But I do disagree with Matt about Field playing well. I thought it was a total waste of him at 6. And I didn't think he looked particularly good.
I don't think he looked bad. I just don't think he was hugely involved, was he? I do think out of the two halves, Harry Smith was better. Field only telling contribution was the setup for the Liam Farrell try, wasn't it? He had other touches in the game, obviously, but yeah, you're right. He wasn't as good as he is at fullback. I think he's better at 6 than French is at 6. So I think that's the sort of concession you have to make with the sort of injuries Wigan now have got with Cust and Luluai still not quite right. So to play an 80-minute game at half-back. So yeah, I think. Compliment Cass on their start. Wigan will be disappointed with the Edwards try, but he was probably Cass's best player on the day. People have mentioned the yellow. I think you can sort of say that was a turning point. Wigan did get a chance just before that, didn't they? And then the flashpoint. Even if you've been caught in the balls in the sort of roll around after a tackle, you can't kick out like that. You just can't, can you? And I think Fanua is a bit of a hothead, and I certainly, if Farrell has caught him in the balls, I don't think he's done it deliberately, or if he's elbowed him in the stomach because he's tried to lever to get up, or whatever he might have thought he's done. Don't kick people in the head. You're gonna get taken off the pitch for stuff like that, especially in a televised game. Be conscious of the fact that you're gonna get caught out if you try and kick someone in the head on television.
Yeah, it's foolish play.
I mean, he made up for it a bit with some of his numbers, but I don't think his performance was particularly good for Newman. I think Ferramo had some good numbers as well, didn't he? But he was absolutely lost at sea defensively. We know he isn't a centre, and it is tough being put into that position to make the defensive decisions that position required. But like, as soon as Wigan started making him answer questions, he definitely didn't pass the test.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I'm surprised by both of their stats.
Yeah. They'll have done a lot of just the donkey work carries out of their own end of the field.
Yeah. But yeah, I was still surprised by 5 tackle busts each.
Liam Marshall talked about whatever, he had a great. I'm looking at my little print that I bought of his try for the mapped out for the Challenge Cup final winner. But he had a great game in this game. I thought French had his best outing of the year, back at fullback and looking quite alert. You'll have enjoyed that, I'm sure, Sarah.
With him coming to us next year, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The tries they combined for, I think particularly French's try, that great Bibby pass, the Marshall kick, which was as good as any kick we saw in the game from any of the halfbacks. I think, as well, add on to that, there was the try that wasn't a try because of the slightly forward pass from French, but then the no-look pass try from French to Marshall. Those two were in sync. Those two had good games. But I wanted to call out, I think the game turned around because of the forward play rather than any of the other things that you talk about. I think when Partington and Havard were good, when Mago came on in a short burst, he was pretty dominant for 10-15 minutes or so, and that's how Wigan use him. And you've got to bottle him up and not have 10 men in the tackle on him, which and Havard and Partington were fantastic in the second half. I thought they just kept rolling, and basically on that shorter pitch, if you can march up the field with your forwards like Havard and Partington in particular were doing, and then have some skill to execute off the back of it, and a really good organiser in Harry Smith, Sam Powell trying to make up time for his time out of the game for his ban. I think it all rolled into you win on that pitch if you can do that, and Wigan did that for the first half an hour of the second half, and ended up winning comprehensively because of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at Partington and Hazard's stats, they're good stats. I think that this year they're both really coming into their own as players, aren't they?
Yeah, Partington's form's been up and down, in and out, but Hazard's fantastic. I worry about when we might start to see more talk about the NRL looking at him again. They looked at him before he signed his last Wigan contract. Wigan have got an option for him for next year, which will keep him around, hopefully. But he is an outstanding prospect for sure. Couple of news stories. Ian Thornley went off in this game in the first half. Matt Peters confirmed that he's going to miss up to 6 weeks after suffering an MCL injury in his knee. So he's the luckless Ian Thornley. And
that was his good knee, wasn't it?
That was the one he went into the game thinking was his good knee. Yeah, unfortunately not to be, so good luck to him in his recovery. And it has now been announced that Mike Cooper will leave his hometown club Warrington to take up a 1-year deal with Wigan at the end of the season. The 33-year-old prop will join on a 1-year deal with a further 1-year option, is what Wigan have offered your friend Mike Cooper there. So
yeah, pleased with that.
I want to know why, like who's going.
Yeah.
In the pack. That's my worry. Who's going? And if it's Havard, then that's bad. But in terms of a senior player, I think it's only 2 years ago. 2020, he was a dream team player, and he was, had an outstanding season. I don't think he was bad last year. He just wasn't as good. And then I almost kind of think he's one of the players that's in the problem with Powell Group. And so I wouldn't write him off yet, but he's not a young player, but he brings a lot of experience to the group, and he seems like a sound guy. So that doesn't seem like an issue for me.
Good. Yeah.
But yeah, I'm worried about who's going. Okay.
Yeah, it feels in a way like a bit of an odd signing, I think. In, like you say, in the fact that he's an older player and all the rest of it.
I don't think we would have necessarily been signing him if Lee Breers wasn't on the coaching staff. I think.
Fair point.
I think maybe there's a relationship there with Cooper being such a stalwart at Warrington as well, as Breers having been. Okay, on to the second game in France this week, the one where the referees couldn't make it. So we have to learn who Gregory Pumes is. Anyway, Mr. Pumes was Monsieur Pumes was the referee. 5,225 was the crowd to see St Helens win 28 points to 14 over Toulouse. It was 14-2 at half time, and Saints obviously were able to hammer home that advantage. In terms of team stats, Saints kept their host to under 1,000 metres and under 6 metres per carry in another suffocating defensive outing by St Helens, who made over 400 metres more and 9 breaks to 4 with the ball too, suggesting they could have probably won by more than that scoreline difference. As well as being below 1,000 metres, Toulouse were below 90% team tackle success rate as well. So although both teams were actually below 90%, Saints were too. But yeah, two stat figures that mean you lose, and maybe normally would mean you lose by more. So credit a little bit to Toulouse for hanging about in this game to be only a 14-point deficit. What about individuals?
Yes, individually for St Helens, it was Regan Grace with 1 try, 9 tackle busts, 169 metres and 2 clean breaks. Will Hopewati with 1 try assist, 160 metres. Tommy Makinson with 1 try, 101 metres. And Alex Wormsley with 6 tackle busts and 101 metres. For Toulouse, it was Ollie Ashelbot with 8 tackle busts, 153 metres and 2 clean breaks. And Matty Russell with 106 metres and 4 offloads.
At MikeWeb58 got in touch. He said, bizarrely, was in mid-France listening to Radio Merseyside commentary. As such, difficult to actually know what was going on. Seems Saints were quite good, had lots of tries disallowed. Toulouse were okay, and it rained quite hard. Liam Moore decided the Munich Beer Festival was a better bet. Also gutted to be missing the SLP Tag Rugby Derby, the Unicorns versus Tag 'em All. Yeah, when Lee was on, he talked about being in the same tag rugby league as Mike, didn't he? So
Yes.
yeah, good stuff. That's the only fan view we had on in that one. Not